Markforged would say that complexity is for free. I'm here with Ian today from Mark3D. What does that mean, Ian?
It's a great question. It's a great question. If I can, I'd like to take you back to my apprenticeship for a minute. During my apprenticeship, one of the things I heard very often was, it's a great design, but you can't make that, son. Because we were restricted in those days to conventional machine tool techniques. The world of 3D printing has just blown the whole thing wide open. So what they actually mean is something as simple as a washer, which is built in layers, compared to something very complex like the insiders of a cutting tool taking coolant path. Means nothing to a printer or the software. It just divides it into layers and it prints it.
Yeah, so what we're saying is, other than time, if it obviously it's the size of the component is the variable, not the complexity.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Its complexity doesn't add to print time. The printer doesn't slow down for internal geometry. Doesn't need to. So we immediately see there are some very simple things. An example that's been used before. Who says a hole has to be round? We only make holes round because we drill them. Well, these days, actually, anything you want shape-wise through a part can be achieved. So inside now, you can do all sorts of things. And one of the things that's becoming quite popular is embedding components inside printed parts. So the lovely thing with the printers is we can actually stop the printer at a certain layer and drop a ball bearing race in there, or bury a nut halfway through the job, and then we can start printing again. It's wonderful, really. It's really easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So how about the other variables, things like programming, things like that? Is there an element of complexity there?
It's lovely. None at all. None at all. If I can't program CNC machines, okay, my job was to fix them, and I could just about manage a tool change or turn the coolant on or something like that to check. But now I can make anything. The software does it for me, which is lovely. If somebody gave me that shape and said, go and program that, there's a lot of people today watching this that would go, yeah, actually, that's quite hard. That's real simple for me. Just drop it in the software, divide it into layers, and it does the rest for me. The software even writes the printer G code, if that's what you'd like to call it, the printer program. One of the things that's really interesting too is printed threads. So what we can actually start to see now, we get some really nice geometry printing threads on components.
And three mating parts as well in that case.
Three mating parts together. This is actually some people ask if that's a multi-directional coolant nozzle, which it could be, but in this case it's an orthopedic component that sits on the bed. They put the shaft in there and lock it down tight. So there's all sorts of things we're doing now. Our friends at Goering, we can see this ejector drill. The idea of the ejector drill is to get the swarf out of the cavity, because people don't want it inside their engine blocks, obviously. Might be a few recalls on that. So this tool here, when we look inside it, we can actually see as it's cutting there, it's curling the swarf, pushing it down through the body itself, which is arched like a cathedral dome inside it. But the coolant channels run up the very thin sidewalls. And as they come out the top, they go around in almost like a shepherd's crook and blow the actual swarf backwards out of it. It's a wonderful piece, really.
That takes some drilling or EDM, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Well, you can only EDM in a straight line, really.
Exactly, yeah.
Somebody's going to try and prove me wrong, but you can, in theory, only EDM in straight lines. So what we used to have to do with situations like this was EDM in a straight line, come in from another straight line, and then weld the top back over it. It's just, you don't have to do it these days. It's lovely, really.
Yeah,
lovely.
100%. And when we look at some of these other components, we've got fixtures for aerospace components, we've got gears.
Yeah, it's lovely, really. All sorts of simple mechanisms. You'd have to really think this one through. This is just a very simple set of printed parts assembled together. If we wanted to, I'm sure we could have printed some of those parts connecting to each other automatically. Lovely.
So there we have it. Complexity really isn't a barrier.
It's not. No barrier to me. Shouldn't be to you, sir.
There we are. So for more information on anything you've seen today, get in touch with the team at Mark3D.